Maseches Bava Kama Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. That's the Masechta, and we are learning the Shiur Nishmas of Imar Menachem Ben Akiva, Ruth Bas Shalom. Okay, and so Bas Moshe Le Refuas Le Bas Tomo. How's your wife? Esther Sobas Gittel. Okay. Besach Esther Fuma Bas Shoshana Malka Besach Shachol Yisrael. We said yesterday that when it comes to taxes, then it's not so simple. The taxes are halachically recognized. On one hand, we said Shmuel says Dina de Malchusa Dina, the law of the king is the law. Yeah. By the way, I saw yesterday one of the Rishonim who says Dina de Malchusa means it has to be proper Malchus. It doesn't say Dina de Malka, but Dina de Malchusa. What's the difference? It's not that the king just is some kind of tyrant dictator that takes taxes and taxes people with no logic. It has to be something that's for the benefit of the people and something that is properly organized. Yeah, the taxes, and not just the one king that decides he wants to build himself a beautiful palace and he takes taxes from everybody. That's not called Dina Malchusa Dina. It's Dina de Malka. It's his own pocket, his own private pocket, and that's not considered Dina de Malchusa. So that's first. Now, says the Gemara, why did we call the Moichsim? I'm just giving the introduction of the summary. We said before, why did the Mishnah call the Moichsim, the tax collectors, thieves? Why is that? So we said one of two. Remember, we have two answers. Answer number one was, we're talking here about a Moiches she'en lo kitzva, that's Shmuel, of Kana Shmuel. Moiches she'en lo kitzva, it's a Moiches that has no limit. It doesn't have a set amount. Yeah, he's basically going haywire and he taxes people, as much as he wants, or he takes percentage from the king. He takes his, cut from the king with absolutely no supervision. He does what he feels like. That's not Dina Malchusa Dina. That's not a correct thing. And also another answer was, that was the answer of Rabbi Yanai, b'moches Amud Meilov, is just a mafioso. Is just a thug, a person who decided all of a sudden, one of the people in the street decided that everyone has to give him 50 shekels a month. Or it's even a person who does give the money to the government, but Lamaisa, he decided upon himself not being appointed by the government, he's self-appointed. He likes grass rooting and he also likes, money rooting. So basically he does it on his own accord. Ika dematni lo aho. What? So the first case is like the mafia was for protection. The second case, the second pshat in the Moiches Amud Meilov is not a mafia. It could be he's a good guy, and he decided that Lachish Street has to be super clean, which wouldn't be a bad idea. So he decides that he takes from everyone from Lachish. It could be a nice old lady, she has nothing to do all day long. So she says, okay, I'm going to get the street even cleaner, and everyone should give me 50 shekels a week, and I'll arrange it. So in a way, I can say very nice. On the other end, I'm not mechuyev to her. Why? Because who said she's not the melech? She's just a regular person. And even if she, gives it to the king or she takes percentage from it, she's not appointed by anybody. And therefore, that is not called Dina Malchusa. And if anything, that's not agreed by many people. She pressurizes people against their will. And it's not, it's the gezela. What? So if the people are not giving something willingly, like in the roulette game, so yeah, it's like it's a gezela. Or she takes a cut to herself. That lady wants to clean the street, so she gives the area extra money to make it extra clean, but she also takes a cut to herself. That cut, who told you to take it? Some people learn the same definitions, the same exceptions to the rule, that this kind of moiches and that kind of moiches are not good ones, or called thieves. The matni lo aho, they pin the same, like a cut and paste. Yeah, the Gemara does many times. That same statement is connected to a different Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Lo yilbash odom kilayim. A person is not allowed to wear kilayim. Yeah, we all know that if you have wool and linen mixed together, you can't wear them. That's not a chiddush. Afilo al gabe asara begodim. Even if you have 10 different layers of clothes, and the kilayim is the top layer of the 10, which means you're not benefiting from it. You're just feeling super extra hot. It's not helping you, and it's not even nice. One of the Rishonim says you're not benefiting, you're not enjoying anything from wearing those kilayim clothes, from that kilayim suit. So why do you wear it? because you want to go through customs without having to pay. People do that. The guy was in London. He shopped very nicely, that Israeli, and he's wearing 3 coats, one on top of the other. Why? Because he wants to just go through customs without anybody asking questions. That's what he's wearing. Yeah. So you're not allowed to wear the kilaim, according to this opinion. Yeah, you're not allowed to wear the kilaim. Why can't you wear the kilaim? Because, even though it's dover she'en miskaven, even though it's something which you're not interested in benefiting from the kilaim, still you're not allowed to wear them even that way. Why not? Be careful when you read this Mishnah. We're talking here about not the prohibition of going through customs the wrong way. That seems to be okay. We're talking only about kilaim. He's asking the rabbi, I want to go through customs in Ben Gurion or in Luton or in Heathrow, and I want to do what? To be mavriach lemeches, to go through customs without having to pay the, I don't know, £1,000 coat. Yeah, but I have a question about kilaim. That seems to be the issue. So says Rabbi Akiva, no. Don't wear kilaim at all. Even if you're not enjoying the kilaim, still don't wear them. Let's continue. But what seems to be okay here? The meches. But going through customs without paying seems to be okay. Masnisin delot Rabbi Akiva. That Mishnah does not follow Rabbi Akiva's opinion. The Tanya says Rabbi Akiva, also lavriach es hameches. Also lavriach es hameches. The Brisa says one's not allowed to mavriach es hameches, meaning what? With kilaim. That's the issue. You can't go with kilaim. Wearing kilaim is osur, even though, in other words, the issue is dover she'en miskaven. You're not allowed to wear kilaim even if you have no intention of enjoying or benefiting from them. Rabbi Shimon quotes Rabbi Akiva saying differently. Yeah, you're allowed to wear kilaim if your entire and only exclusive intention is not to really wear them. You're not benefiting from them. You have many other coats underneath. It's not even pretty. It's ugly. You have no intention, no nothing. Then it's okay to go through customs with a kilaim. Bishlam alin in kilaim, when the issue of kilaim is the stories in the limelight, when you focus on kilaim, welcome Miflagi. I understand the machlokes about kilaim. It's a very classical machlokes which appears many times in Maseches Shabbos. The Ma'asov dover she'en miskaven mutar. The opinion that says you are allowed to wear the kilaim so long as you're not really benefiting from them. You have this coat of, imagine yourself, a guy who goes through customs and he wears a coat which is a mixture of wool and linen. Was absolutely not checked by the Shatner's lab of Moshe David Cohen. And if it would be, he would right away, I don't know, he would have to unravel half the thing there. It's very much kilaim, but you're allowed to wear it. Why are you allowed to wear it? I'm not really wearing it. What am I doing? I'm just going through customs and I have to put it on my body with no intention of enjoying it. And it's really not enjoyable. That's why it says he has 10 other layers underneath. So that's okay. Umar Sova, the other opinion says, Dover she'en miskaven also. The other opinion says, no, Dover she'en miskaven is also. What's Dover she'en miskaven also? Dover she'en miskaven. So what? You have no kavana? So what if you have no kavana? You're still wearing the kilaim, right? The other opinion says, just like we have machlokes in Shabbos between Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda, the strict opinion says, who cares you're not miskaven? At the end of the day, you're doing it. Yeah, also. Ela lavriach boisameches mishari. But it looks like the fact that you're going through customs seems to be okay. That seems to be fine. Both opinions agree that the rabbi who got the question would not tell him, you're going through customs? Why? Frag the Gemara of Omer Shmuel, why is it seem to be so okay according to all Tanoim? They're only bothered about kilaim, but everybody is okay with going through customs and smuggling the goods through the customs. Why? The law of the government is the law. Again, exactly what we said before about our Mishnah, we're saying over here. Either A, the guy at the customs is not a person that has any specific rules. Yeah, he decides what he wants. He decides however much to take. He decides only to bother these people and not the other. He decides that from this coat, 2 coats worth exactly the same. He feels like taking this one because his wife is going to like it. That one is going to, what? Is going to take 100 shekel tax. The other one, 500. He has absolutely no guidelines that he goes with. That's Gazlan. That's not a legal system. And therefore, such a case, Adraba, I'll go to customs without having to pay and I'll go with that coat because any of these guys is a criminal. Dever Biane say no. Another answer, as we said before, We're talking about a self-appointed guy. Nobody asked him to stand there. He stands at the airport, after the official customs, and he made his own customs stand over there. And he's Amin Me'elov, and he decides that he wants to take customs also. He's playing customs, very nice, on tourism should pay, not now. And therefore, such a guy is not legal, and he's a ganav. Yes, he's a ganav. Nah, a third one. Some people learn this entire thing. Which thing? Some people learn the entire story about the following case. What is that? Meaning, what's the entire story? The same exception to the rule. Those two types of moichsim, either the one who has no limits, is legal, but he goes haywire, and even maybe the king told him to take as much as he wants, or the second guy is a self-appointed guy. Let's connect those opinions now to a third brisa. It says over there, it says, Noidrin, one may make a false neder. Wow. Soon you'll see what that means. Noidrin leharogin. Let me explain what noidrin leharogin. Let's say a person comes to, Chas v'shalom, comes to you with a gun and says, what, money or life? He says, I'm going to kill you if you don't give me those delicious fruit that you have. Yeah. So now, noidrin, you may make a neder, says Rashi. Yeah. He says to the guy, listen, this doesn't belong to me. I'd love to give it to you, Mr. Blazing Gun, but it's not mine. I can't give it to you. It belongs to the king, and that would appease him. From you, he dares to take. From the king, so you basically lie to his face because you're scared of your life. Yeah, you're scared for your life, and you say, Mr. Killer, this is not mine. It belongs to the king. Prove it. He doesn't believe you. You make a neder. What's a neder? A neder is not a shavua. A neder means that you say. And he says one example of a neder, you say all the fruit in the world would be forbidden to me like neder, would be kilu detached from me like neder, if this is not the king's. It's like a very strong halachic promise. Yeah, if this is not the king's, I swear that this is the king's. Yeah, it doesn't say swear, it says neder. If this does not belong to the king, all these delicious grapes in my store behind me in the counter, if it's not the king's, then all the fruit in the world would be noider. Now, how could you do that? Says Tosfos, in dire straits like that, you can say in your heart, only for today. Or you can mumble under your breath, even better, only for today, if he doesn't listen. And that is okay, and today you can't eat fruit or vegetables. Today I have to be unhealthy. Okay? You'll be okay with that, right? So, noidrin laharogin. So if the guy wants to kill you, you can even make a false neder, providing that in your heart, you say differently. Charomin is a person who may not kill you, but can cause trouble. Rashi says, Baletigra, Kazgonim, thieves and people who start fighting. Ule moichsin, moichsin are good friends. And moiches comes, you come in through customs with a coat or with your new sneakers from America. And what? And you tell the moiches, that's not mine. That belongs to the melech. But you know what else you can tell him? Shehi shel truma. Shishal base melech, or you can tell him belongs to truma. Let's say it's fruit. You say, hey, he's a frum ganav. He's with a blazing gun. But if you tell him this is the koyens, this is truma, he won't touch it. There are frum ganovim, frum roitzchim also there are. Yeah, he goes, so afal pi she'ena shel truma, afal pi she'ena shel melech. Even though it's actually a blatant lie, but you're not mechuyev to play his game. You don't have to be nice to a guy who's about to kill you, chas v'shalom, or steal, or cause trouble. One of the people on the list is what? A moiches. So you see, you can actually lie to the moiches. Not only a lie bordering on neder. Frag the gemara lemoichsin. Excuse me, I want to siphon one item out of the list. A moichsin, a ganav. The moiches is an official guy in the airport with a sign behind him. Reshut Sdot HaTeufa. The law of the king is the law, not the king. I fell into the mistake. If anybody translates to English, the law of the king is the law, it's wrong. It's not the law of the king, it's the law of the kingdom, the law of the government. If a king decides, I want to build myself a beautiful house in Petach Tikva, Ranana, he wants to build himself a nice house at the expense of all the people, I don't know if that's called fair taxation. Yeah, it's for the government, for what's good for the people. So then the question is, how can you lie to the moiches, assuming the moiches is a good guy working for the government properly? And again comes the same answer which you said before, same thing. Although now we're going to have a third answer. This is a guy who takes as much as he wants. He's not working orderly with numbers, with a set amount, with a quota. He takes whoever he wants. He takes and he discriminates people and takes as much as he feels like. The second answer, which we already saw twice, this is a guy who does whatever he wants. He's self-appointed. Either is mamash mafioso, or he's self-appointed and then he gives something to the government. He keeps to himself. There's absolutely no supervision over him. He's just a gazlan. Oh, Rav Ashi Omar. Up until now, by the way, we never pointed out what's the nationality, what's the religion of Mr. Moiches. He's a Jew. Up until now, the Rishonim said, I didn't mention it to you because it wasn't so shaykh. The Chiddush is he's a Jew. Yes, unfortunately, some Yidden are Ganovim. Unfortunately, the Gemara says most Ganovim are Jews. When you have a city of Jews and going together, unfortunately, very sad. However, although he's Jewish, that's a Chiddush. He's Jewish. Are you allowed to steal from another Jew? No. However, if the Jew himself is the Ganav, I don't have to play his game. And if that Jewish guy takes this coat and not the other one, from this one he takes 50 shekels for the other 500. He does whatever he wants. Very nice. You're Jewish, so what? I'm not supposed to play your game and give you the nice coat. And yes, I will cheat on the cheating. I'll go any Benaganav, Mishakir as a Shakron, and I'll go through customs whichever way I want. However, comes the third answer. Rav Ashi Omar, could be it's a legal guy. B'moiches knaini opala. Oh, here we're getting into today's sugya. Today's sugya is not politically correct at all. Today's sugya. I'll have to find a very nice title for YouTube, and that is: are you allowed to steal from a goy? Yes or no is not so simple. So here at the moment, the question is what kind of goy? There are many types of goyim, even in halacha, yes. And also, what kind of theft? But right now, the Gemara gives a third answer. That moiches, you all know the name of the moiches. Tim McKenzie. Tim McKenzie is the one who's a very legal good guy. He got from the American government, he got the rights to stand up by the customs and take a cut. I don't know how it works exactly. Yeah, he is allowed to take a cut from any tax that he takes off the people of customs. He is allowed to take a cut to himself, and he's a very nice, honest guy. But he's an oived of the Zohar. To make it more palatable, the guy Tim McKenzie, maybe you don't know what he does. At night, he doesn't just go home and watch whatever. Definitely not soccer. He's American. He doesn't watch new American football or hockey. He's Canadian. What does he do? He has a getchka. He's oived of the Zohar. He was convinced by the Zen people to bow down to the pesel. That's what he does. Such a guy, it's the worst thing for a guy. Yeah, even for a guy to do. So such a person, I don't have to play his game either, even if he's an honest guy, and I can actually take his potential gain, which is the meches, I can avoid it from him, evade it. Yes, he can do that because he's a goy. Not just a goy, he's an ovid of the Zorah. That's the assumption. The Tanya, it says in the Bryce, Yisrael the Knaini Anas. Yisrael and the Knaini. Now the word Anas was only added by the censor. Even if the Knaini is not Anas means like a robber, like a thief, like a highwayman. Yisrael and a goy, they come together, Shabbat Ladin. Let's say they came to a Din Torah. Yisrael and a goy, Mr. Israel, Chaim Yankel, and Tim McKenzie, they came to Din Torah together. So then we always side with the Jew. We always side with the Yid and not with the Ovid of the Zorah. If you can make the Jew be Zakai, win the case according to Dinei Torah, you be Mezakim according to Dinei Torah. And you tell Mackenzie, I'm so sorry, Mr. Mackenzie, you came to a Jewish Beis Din. According to the Jewish law, Mr. Chaim Yankel is right. Let's say you can follow the Goyish law, Zakehu, the Jew. You always play the game in favor of the Jew. And you write to Mackenzie at the summary of the din of the court case. This is the Goyish law of the country. That's the American law. That's the Canaanite law. Okay, the imlav. And let's say you don't manage to make the Jew win the case. Bishmol says you still do any kind of trick in the book, any kind of loophole. You always try to be on the Jewish side and not on the side of the Goy who's Ovid of the Zorah. That's Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva says no. Ain't bein olav ba'akifin pnei kiddush Hashem. Says Rabbi Akiva, listen, it could be Chulul Hashem. Mackenzie is not that stupid, and therefore, if you can't find a proper legal a reason here to write in your story to actually give you to explain yourself, yeah, to give reasoning to what you say, then because of lack of to avoid Chilul Hashem, to create Kiddush Hashem, if you don't find a proper legal reason, then Mackenzie could win the case. Says the Gemara again, Rabbi Akiva, time Kiddush Hashem. Even Rabbi Akiva says what? It's only because to avoid Chilul Hashem, that's why Mackenzie may sometimes win the case. Aleka Kiddush Hashem. Let's say there's no issue of Kiddush Hashem. Let's say Mackenzie is stupid enough, or we can play the game very, very well in a very plausible way. Then boin. Then we do come to him and we make sure that he loses his money, which we know he should have had the money had we been very just and fair. The Gemara, why is that? That starts today's Pandora's box. That starts the question: is it really true you're allowed to steal from a goy, even a knaini, which we assume is in Oved Zara, and he's Ashes Ish? That's much more common. And I don't know what else he does. He murders people. The guy's a mafioso. He's a hitman. So even then, you're allowed, that guy, are you allowed to steal from him, or even steal in a white collar way in Beis Din? And also, what did we say before? We saw already two cases. Mackenzie works where? In the customs office. Yeah, where? In O'Hare. Yeah, and what? He works over there. You're allowed to avoid him, evade the tax, the customs. And secondly, what did we say? If it comes to Din Torah in the Beis Din, we support the Jew and not him, even though he may be right. Is that okay? According to Rabbi Akiva, the Rabbi Akiva is here one of the Tanoim that endorses that. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva, you say that to steal from a goy is mishori, is okay? Second to last line, Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Tanya, look at the Brisa and tell me what you think. It's going to be all contradiction. Amar B'Shimon, Davar Zedosh Rabbi Akiva. Remember, Rabbi Akiva. Shebo mi Zafirin. When Rabbi Akiva came from a town called Zafirin, he came back from his trip. He says the following drosha: Minayin legezel kanayin shu asu. Rabbi Akiva is the one who brings us a proof, a source from the Bible that a gezel kanayin is forbidden. You're not allowed to steal from a goy. How do you know? Talmud, you have to understand the issue of lo tignoiv or lo tignoivu does not apply to a goy, because most ben adam lechavero applies to amitecho, re'ehu, people like you who's a Jew. Even a Jew is an apikoros, who's a very anti-Torah, anti-Hashem, or does not believe in the Torah, halachas don't apply to him, a ben adam lechavero. Yeah. So for a goy, you need a special source to teach me. Although the goy is not just a goy. Let's assume now the goy is an Oved of Zara. It's a bad goy. No, the bad guy and the bad goy. And what? Even to him, you're not allowed to steal from him. Even from him, you can't steal. And have a special pasuk to forbid theft from a goy. Talmud Loimer. Look at the pasuk. The pasuk discusses before we read it, and that was, a good few parshas ago. Yeah, that's in the Bahar B'chukoisai. Yeah, it says over there at the end, it's a B'chukoisai, I think. What happens if a Jew unfortunately is sold to a goy? A Jew is sold to a goy as an eved. He's a slave. Yeah, he scrubs the kitchen floor, and the goy bought the Jew from himself. He paid the money. The Jew paid his debts that he owes for all the chassanas of the children. I don't know. Now he works for the goy, scrubbing the floors. Now we have a very, very big mitzvah of sort of pidyon shvuim. Who's we? The Beis Din, whoever's in charge, the Jewish authorities have a chiyuv to get the Jew out of there ASAP. Why? Because, you know what? Because Mackenzie has open internet. And also because his wife, when she walks around the kitchen, she doesn't wear a shal. Yet she walks not 100% sneers. And because he curses, and because he worships Avodah Zarah, and we want to get the Jew out of that environment ASAP. It's not a regular work environment. He's a slave of the goy. The goy may tell him to do things. And on Saturday, you know what Mackenzie does? He plays soccer. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is bringing us a source here. You're not allowed to steal from a goy. Look what it says. Talmud Loimer. It says, Achrei nimkar, after he's sold to a goy, geula tiyaloi. He has to have a geula, redemption to who? From the goy. What does it mean redemption? Doesn't mean Mashiach. Also means that. Geula means that you have to pay the goy. Yeah, when you goyel, you redeem the Jew. It means that Beis Din comes and knocks on Mackenzie's door, and Mackenzie expect the Jew to work for him for 6 years. He says, I know the Jewish law. You guys supposed to work for 6 years. He's been working here for 3 years, and it cost him how much? It cost him $60,000, okay? Which means every year is $10,000. I'm good so far, right? So we say it's been 3 years. Okay, Mr. Mackenzie, here's a check, bank transfer of $30,000. Did I say 30 or 300? Whatever. Half the amount you still get, and goodbye. And we fairly trade, and we fairly buy off the Jew from the goy. Shalom shechenu, kufit gimel beis atap. Shalom shechenu v'yetzer. Hey, wait a second. Why can't we play leg lachim? Why can't we just pull the Jew? If we have the power, we have the koyach. We're talking here in the Torah's law where we control Eretz Yisrael. So why im shechenu v'yetzer? No, you're not allowed to be Moshe. Take him, pull him out of Mackenzie's house, and say, "You Mackenzie, you are influencing badly. We're taking the Jew away from you, and we're stealing the Jew away from him. He owns, right, the Jew, the Jewish Eved. We cannot just pull him out and take him out. Yochel yigloim olav. Maybe now the big machlokas what yigloim olav means. Rashi says yigloim olav. Maybe the other extreme. Maybe the goy can ask me for how do you say exorbitant amount of money, and I will pay and pay and pay. Why should I pay the goy a lot? Pidyon shvuim. Maybe now Mackenzie can be the one on the high pedestal and say, okay, I want $1 million, not 300. And if not, it's going to become chiloni by me. We don't do that either. Talmud loimer v'chis shavim koneu. We don't go to either direction. You have to calculate with the buyer. The yedaktikim koneu, you have to mamish go down to the last penny and trade him out, buy him out fairly. Oh, so you see, you're not allowed to steal from a guy, even if the guy is bad influence, right? Oh, so what's going on over here? You're Rabbi Kiva say allowed to steal from a guy. You're Rabbi Kiva yourself said not allowed to steal from a guy, and you gave me a source. Rav Yosef loy kasha. Says Rav Yosef, no, it's not difficult. Oh, depends what kind of guy. Didn't I promise you the answer? Depends. If it's a knaini who's an oived of the zora, he's the guy's an idol worshiper, and the guy has I don't know how many mistresses. The guy's a hosher guy. Then what? You cheat and you lie. He's not a fair person. He's not even a yid. There's no need to know. He's a very bad kind of person, knaini, and therefore, yeah, I'll cheat him. However, over here it's ger toishov. The one whom you're not allowed to cheat, you have to be very fair, is a ger toishov. Who's a ger toishov? Says Rashi, it's a guy who accepted upon himself not to do avodah zarah, not to worship avodah zarah, but he still eats treifas. 1 second. Some Rishonim say it's a mechlokes Rishonim. Some Rishonim say it's a guy who accepted upon himself not to break the 3 cardinal sins of the Zohar, Gilavais, Shvichus Domim, murdering and adultery. And some say Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Okay, but Lamaisa is still a goy. He's a goy. He's bad influence on the Jew. But Lamaisa, that kind of goy who accepted upon himself minimal moral values of Yiddishkeit, that kind of goy you're not allowed to cheat. And on him, the Torah said, be very fair and treat him nicely and trade nicely. Don't play any shtick on him. Not too much, not a penny more, not a penny less, like you say in England, right? Exactly. So Mimela what? Mimela, that's a goy who's a good guy. The bad goy over there, we treat him as such. And yes, we will play every possible shtick to get his money into the hands of Chaim Yankel, even if it's not really by the books. That this answer will be rejected, by the way. Yes, I'm hearing your question and yours, and then we continue. Yes, Rabbi, please ask your question. Rabbi Stinkin pointed to Rashi. Rashi says, who's a ger toisha? We consider Rashi in the 3rd line. Ein oved avodah zarah, comma. He does not worship avodah zarah. However, he does eat nevelos, which means this kind of goy, you know that the Torah says, what do you do with the tray for meat? Let's say you have meat which was, the shochet flunked, the shochet waited 1 second too long, it's treif. Or you found that the lung is full of holes, it's treifa. That was nevela, the first case. Who do you give it to? You give it to doggy dog, to Boxer the dog, or you give it to Mackenzie. What kind of Mackenzie do you give free meat to? Free. And you even lend the money and you let him live in Israel. Oich nevelos means he gets the benefit. That's only a guy who behaves himself and does not do avodah zarah. And according to other Rishonim, he has to also keep other basic laws of goyim. But a guy who worships avodah zarah is not allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael, not even 1 day. That's what the Rishonim say, as opposed to what's going on today. A guy who's a Christian Catholic, assuming that's avodah zarah, which many people hold, he's not allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael. Not even 1 minute, not even one night. Yeah? Okay? Weiter. Saying that I talk about it later. Weiter. Let's continue. Amar le Abaye. So that seems to be a good answer, but Abaye is an issue with that. Amar le Abaye. Abaye is asking on Rav Yosef, his Rebbe, both kinds of goyim are mentioned gabe adodi together, which means it says in the pasuk there, Lo, you remember how the Torah describes a person who deteriorates? A person who does business with what? Perish Shvis, in Yonah Yomi. A person sells Perish Shvis, he lies to everybody. He writes, this is Nochri, this is Shishis, this is from Cyprus, and the guy is mamish trading what? Shvis fruits that are holy. So you know what's going to happen with him? He will slowly deteriorate financially. He'll be sold as a slave to a Jew. Eventually he'll be sold to a ger, you know what kind of ger he'll be sold to as an eved? Not to a ger tzedek, which is a very nice guy. We're talking here, the very same parsha that talks about trading fairly and buying out the Jew from the goy is not only a goy of a Zorah with the cross and the harakishkes. We're talking about a ger toishov that the Jew, because of his bad behavior, was sold to. Shenemar leger toishov. And then we continue, mishpachas ger, zavet kechovim. We're talking even later on, you know what's going to happen to him? Oy, oy, oy. He'll be sold not only to a ger toishov, to a good, decent goy, he'll be sold to a guy with a house is full of crosses and Buddhas. Yeah? And later on the Torah adds, in other words, eker. What's eker? To uproot. He's sold to the actual church. He's sold mamish to be to clean the floor of the church, of the Zen Buddhism center, of the Avodah Zarah. If so, yeah. So what are you talking about? So you're telling me, it sounds like a nice tarot, but it's not true. In other words, the same pasuk that tells you to trade fairly, and the geula and the whole business of getting the Jew out of the clutches of the goy specifically talks about all types of goyim. If either nice ger toishov who is, you know, almost Jewish but not, his ger toishov, he's a Noahide. That's what they're called nowadays. He's a Noahide. Yeah, there are many Noahides today. And even to a real Oved of the Zara, a very frum Catholic, a very frum Buddha guy, frum to their frumkeit. Yeah. So you can't give your answer. We see that even from a real Oved of the Zara, you still have to trade fairly. Oh, so that's again a problem. You get the question? You see that even though we're talking here about a goy who's what? The goy is a real Oved of the Zara. He's a priest. He's the Avodah Zarah man. Still, when you get the Jew out of his clutches, you have to trade very fairly without playing games. Therefore, Rava wants to offer a different answer. To do with you, Alan, your question. We all know that there's a blue collar crime and white collar crime, which means when you talk about stealing from a goy, when you talk about taking the Eved, where's the Eved now? The Eved, where's the Eved? In the kitchen of Mackenzie, cleaning the floor. To physically take something owned by a goy and take it out of his house where the Jew is there, yeah, they're not escape. That your mom is stealing. That you're not allowed to do to a goy. But she'ain can the case before, if you remember, I didn't get to that sugya. We spoke about Mr. Tim who works wearing the customs, and I'm avoiding a potential gain. When I wear my nice new fancy coat, which I bought in somewhere in America, and I go through customs, I don't know, in Canada, somewhere else, and I avoid it, and it looks like it's something I wear, and then what happens? I'm avoiding potential gain to the goy, but I didn't take something that he already owns. That's allowed. That's the answer, okay? That, according to Rav, is the answer, and the same thing is by the court case. The court case is money that's not in the pocket of the goy. The money is where is in question, and we don't know who's right, who's wrong. We always side with the Jew. Now, Ellen's asking a good question. What would be if the Jew is out of the house of the goy anyways, because he ran away? I don't think we have to pay the goy. We're not allowed to take from the goy to mamish snatch it from his hands. That's not allowed. Omer le Abaye. Abaye is now asking a question on Rove. Eved Ivri of course of also who? Of course, excuse me. Of course of also who? Says Abaye something very interesting. Eved Ivri, Abaye challenges Rava, something very surprising maybe for you to hear, maybe. The Eved Ivri, if you all know, Eved Ivri is an Eved Ivri owned by a Jew? No. Let's say it's a Jew and a Jew, regular Eved Ivri. He's not owned by you. An Eved Ivri is on lease, which means every action he does, every moment he works in your house, he's like paying back a loan. Get it? In other words, it's like loan payment by actually working there. That's not the way it works. He gave you 600,000 shekels for himself, and every time he works, he's buying himself out. So every work of the Jew, every piece of work, so to speak, is really something paid off as potential gain. But the Eved is not owned by his person. A Jew is never owned by anybody else. Imela Abai says you're wrong. You're telling me that to snatch the goy from Mackenzie's house is considered as taking something that he owns. No, he does not own it. It doesn't look nice that you take it from his kitchen and you run away. But Lamaisa, he does not own the Yid. A Yid does not own another Yid, and Koshik and a Goy does not own the Yid. It's only something on a lease. It's something, on like a long hire agreement. Rava Lataima answers the Gemara, no, Rava believes differently. By the way, it's not the halacha, but Rava says an Eved Ivri, his body is acquired by the person. An Eved Ivri, his body is, yes, owned by, temporarily owned for 6 years, until the Yovel, until whatever, till, he's owned temporarily, by the person, and he's also owned by the Goy. By the way, halacha is not like that. It's not true. A Goy does not own the Jew. The Rishonim say Matitom, but Rava holds that he's owned by the Goy. If he's owned by the Goy, says Rabbi Akiva, Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, we are in about the 10th line or so from the top of the page. A Jew is not owned by a Goy. According to Rava, he is, because according to Rava, the Jew is owned by Mr. Mek. Mainly, you can't take him out. You can't snatch him out. You don't do that. You don't steal something from someone. However, in the previous case, that was different. That was a different story. To avoid gain that he potentially deserves, that's a different story. That's a different story. And by the way, I don't think you can do that with Ben Noach. I'm almost sure you cannot. But a Goy who's Oved of the Zohar, a real grobe Goy, as we say, the bad kind of Goy, is not trying to follow any moral from the Torah. That kind of Goy, to avoid Revach, we don't have to be such bleeding hearts, such liberals. Yeah, I'm avoiding his Revach. I need a code to send my children to Cheder, so let him not get my coat, even if he's an honest kind of tax collector. Why?
Yeah, they just run away. He's gone to North Korea from Israel, and the owner of the
Fine. Ellen asked the question twice, and you're asking what would be the Eved ran away to the relatives. He ran away and he's not going to come back. He ran away to New Zealand, and now can the Goy approach the family of the runaway Eved and say, you pay me for the fact that he got lost? I'm 99.9 sure that they don't have to pay. Because as we just said, now you're not allowed to steal from a Goy. But if he got stolen or got lost, because the Eved made sure that the Jewish Eved made sure that he got lost, we don't have to pay for that. No. Because we don't have to give back the Eved of a Goy to begin with. You know that? Me'ikar adin, unless it's Chilul Hashem, or maybe if you want to be extra nice, there's a question. Me'ikar adin, if you find Mackenzie's wallet on the floor and nobody's going to know, there are no hidden cameras, which doesn't exist today. The whole world today is North Korea. There's the cameras everywhere. But if in theory Mackenzie will never know, will be none the wiser, you don't have to give him the Aveda. And I don't like what I'm doing now because I'm now telling you what the Gemara will tell you soon. So let the Gemara talk and not me. Absolutely.
This is not Gezel Mamish.
Yes, Shari also. Exactly. Let's continue. Very good. Amab Shimon Chasida. Gezel Knaini Osur, to steal from a Goy is Osur. Avedasa Muteres. Voila. To not return the Aveda, that's allowed. I don't have to go out of my way and actually, make sure that he finds it. Again, there are cases, like the famous case in America, that the guy found money at the table, and they bought a table secondhand, and they made a big thing in the American news. That's nice, Kiddush Hashem. But it's not me'ikra din, you're not mechuyev to give the $100,000 that you found in the drawer of the secondhand table. Yeah, you're not mechuyev. Even if you took it to yourself, you don't have to give it back. Gzelo Oster. How do you know that the gezel to steal from a guy is Oster? The Amar of Huna. Rav Huna has different source to Rabbi Akiva. Minayin legezel Kanani shu Oster. How do you know you're not allowed to steal from the Knani, from the Oved of the Zorah? Because why? We know the Lotignov alone does not apply to them. So how do you have a different source? Shenemar be'ochaltes kol amim When we're given the good command of once we conquer Eretz Yisrael from the Shiva Samomim, from the 7 nations, you basically eat up, you conquer and you consume everything that belongs to the Goyim when you come to war, and they are under you. Look at the continuation of the drosha over the pasuk. When the Goyim are under you and are Shiva Momim, and you are in control and you control them, then you can take their money also. Again, maybe if they're willing not to do over the Zara and keep the mitzvahs, then that's a different story. But Lamaisa, as long as they behave as they behave and I'm in charge, I'll take whatever I want. That's the business, which means if they are not under us, if we're in America of today, the Goyim are definitely not under our feet. They're not controlled by us anywhere in the world, not even in Israel. In that case, you're not allowed to steal. That's what the pasuk is telling you. Only when you're in control, when you're the conqueror, then you can take the money. Meaning to say, in a regular situation, unfortunately regular, they're not under our feet, so to speak, then I'm not allowed to steal from a goy. Okay? Now, anything. The chiddush here is that I remember one of the meforshim, either the Rosh or the Rama, they say the chiddush of this drosh as opposed to Akiva, Akiva spoke about a person who built the trust with the Jewish slave. The guy says, listen, I trusted the guy to stay in my house for 6 years. It's a very, very big purchase, and it's an ongoing relationship. If he in the middle of the store is going to run away, not run away himself, will be sort of, how do you say, I wouldn't say kidnapped, so to speak, will be snatched away from me in the middle of the term, that's a huge, disgusting chilul Hashem, don't do that. But maybe regular theft, if I stole a little mini bar, Mars bar from the guy's pocket, maybe that's not so bad. No, unless it goes under my feet, I'm not allowed to steal from him anything at all. Not only an eved, which is the whole thing. Avedoso muteres, the aveda, you're not supposed to give back the aveda and you can keep it to yourself. How do you know that if the knaini, again, we're talking here about the bad kind of goy, how do you know that you're allowed to keep his aveda? You don't have to return the money or the whatever, or the baseball cap. You're supposed to give back the aveda, the lost object, to your brother. Hey, brother, you're only supposed to give it back to your brother, to your brethren, to the fellow Jew, and not to the knaini. Frag the Gemara, wait a second. One could still argue and say maybe if the aveda did not yet reach your hands. You're walking down Central Park. Yeah? Okay? Most people in New York are going. And what? And you see the baseball cap, and inside it says, you know what it says inside? Tim McKenzie with his WhatsApp number. Yeah? And what? If I didn't yet touch the baseball cap, it's there on the park bench in Central Park, then what? Then I would say, I'm not mechuyev to pick it up and run and say, Mackenzie, here's your cap. That may be only to that level I'm not mechuyev. I'm not mechayev to search him. Aval, but maybe I would have thought, maybe if it came to my hands, let's say already Mackenzie left it in my house, but he would not. Mackenzie is a sales guy. He goes to 100 houses a day. He wouldn't remember it's by me. No chilul Hashem. Okay. Maybe if the cap is in my house, it's by me, or I picked it up already. Maybe I should supposed to give it back. Maybe it's more like a fet. It's already in my arms, in my hands, in my possession. Amaravina, no. Also, no. The Torah says if you found it already, the asoy leyode mashma. Even if the aveda already came to my hands, even then I'm not mechuyev to give it back. Actually, you'll be surprised. And again, we're not being politically correct today. Not a PC shiur. You choose when to come back. Yeah. So we say what? We say it's actually a machloikas. Some people say to return the aveda v'goy is kiddush Hashem, and it's very good and it's amazing, and that's what's done today. Some people say to give back the aveda v'goy is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I don't know. The koichas are going to control you. All kinds of other things. And again, maybe depends on the kind of the goy. I don't know. I didn't learn the sugya be'iyun, but it depends on the goy. If it's a goy that accepted upon himself sheva mitzvahs, or at least accepted halachically not to worship over the Zara, his status is definitely better than the goy who is yes over the Zara, or today, unfortunately, Goyim are not over the Zar, many of them, but they're over Giloy Arayis, many of them, right? So that's already a big problem. Because a Goy is with an Ashes Ish is in a very, very low level, halachically. And that is, yes, common today. So the nice Goy who smiles to you in Marks and Spencer and Bloomingdale's, good chances that he's not so loyal to his wife, the chula, so then we should treat him as such. That his status halachically is low. Tanya Rabinchas ben Yoir Oimer. Rabinchas ben Yoir says in the Brisa, B'malkum shesh chilul Hashem. Oh, let's say chilul Hashem can be. Mackenzie would know very well you picked up the baseball cap, and tomorrow's going to be. Forget about the Financial Times. Tomorrow's going to be all over Facebook, Twitter, and all these things which I don't know. And everyone is going to see a guy with a black hat with a video how he's not returning the lost object. And that will make the Goyim love us even more. No way. Of course, in such a case, even if it's a Veda is Osur, not only not allowed to steal from him actively, a Veda is Osur. So, Enlen Amun, I want to make you happier. I'll make you happy now, okay? Let's say a Goy bought a Jew as a slave. It's also not so politically correct today at all. He bought the Jew as a slave for 600,000, and the Jew ran away in the middle. Yeah, and if his family are going to write a WhatsApp message saying we don't care that our relative ran away, and it's going to cause Chilul Hashem, then they're supposed to be nice and work it out with him nicely. But if there's no Chilul Hashem caused, I don't know, the guy lives on a lonely island and he has no Wi-Fi, nobody's going to know, and even himself won't know. He doesn't know that the relatives, he doesn't, whatever. In that case, there's no chiyuv to give it back to him. Okay? So that is better. Amar Shmuel. And now we're going to have all kinds of unbelievable stories where Chachamim, the way they treated the Goy Shemani, which is, let's see. Amar Shmuel. Ta'usoi muteres. That's a classical one. The mistake of a Goy is allowed. What does that mean? Let's say the Goy was supposed to give me change, and what? He gave me change too little. Yeah. In other words, that he gave me too much. I'm sorry. Thank you. I mean, yeah. He gave me too much change. Yeah. He has to give me back $5, and he gave me what $10, let's say, by mistake. So if I would be super nice and extra in Kiddush Hashem, so it's going to like people with a black kippah, bevakasha. But me'ikra adin, you're not supposed to correct his mistake and say, hey, Mr. Mackenzie, here's the extra $5. You're not supposed to. It's mutter. You're allowed to keep his mistake. That's even more than a Veda. It's his mistake. It's his fault. Yeah. And most people, by the way, I'm sorry to tell you, many people would not return the extra change. Some would, by Goyim and Jews, and many wouldn't by both nationalities. So I'm saying it doesn't even look as bad. And you can also say, I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I didn't realize those extra $5. You can very easily play the game. Oh, really? And then you can give it back later, maybe. It's very easy to get out of that situation. So the toast is a classical case where, again, unless it would be extra nice and make an extra Kiddush Hashem, fine, different story. But Me'ikra Adin, the extra change, thank you, Rabbi Simkin, the extra change you gave you mistakenly, you don't have to give it back to him. Of course, by a Jew, you do have to. There's a very nice story about it. If you have time, 10:25, I'll tell you a story about returning change, how it changed the person's life. Excuse the schmaltzy pun. Okay, Kihod Shmuel says the story about Shmuel. Zoban Mikusi, Shmuel bought from a guy, Lakna de Dahava. He bought from him, it's like a bowl. He bought from him a bowl of gold. It was really made out of gold. Bemar de Parzala. The guy foolishly thought that really it's made out of pliza. Pliz is like brass, copper. So really the guy made a mistake. Yeah? In other words, made a mistake. Bedalit Zuzi for 4 Zuzim. He sold him something which was really gold, and Shmuel knew it. And really, he charged him as if it's made out of copper, which is much cheaper. Gold, copper. Copper is also, it's not like silver, brownish, like yellowish. The evil Aleichad Zuza. You know what it did? Shmuel gave him 1 extra Zuz, which means the price was way, way lower than what it really is. Yeah, it was supposed to be. The guy didn't know. The guy made a mistake and was never none the wiser. Shmuel did not run after him and say, it's really gold, they have to pay an extra 100. However, Shmuel did give him 1 extra zuz. Why? Once he gives him 1 extra zuz, the guy will be happy. And then there are machlokes rishonim. There are many opinions. I'll tell you 2 very interesting shotim. But giving the guy an extra zuz, the guy will be very happy and quickly close the deal and go away. The guy will not think twice. Or he gave him an extra zuz, so the goy will think that Shmuel is stupid. I'm sorry, that Shmuel is foolish. Get me? In other words, the goy will think that Shmuel is the one making the mistake. The goy in his heart is going to laugh at the foolish Jew, and really, he's the one who made the big mistake. So as long as the goy doesn't know, it's fine. Rav Kahana Zoban Mikusi. Rav Kahana bought from a goy 120 chavisa. He bought from him 120 barrels, b'mea, for 100. Yeah, for 100. And really, it was, in other words, the goy made a mistake. Yeah, he sold him 120 for 100. The Ivla Lechat Zuza. And again, he gave him an extra zuz. Omer Lei, either the goy told the Rav Kahana or vice versa. Chazid alach kasamichna. I like Rashi's second shot. The goy told the Jew, I rely on you, Rabbi, which means that he's basically saying, whatever your rabbi do is fine with me, right? So now, even though there was a mistake on the side of the goy, that the goy miscalculated, but the goy says, whatever the rabbi does is good. So whatever the rabbi does is good. If I'm be extra nice, I'll be honest. But Lamaisa, towards him, I'm not mechuyev. It's an over the Zara, Parutz, Roshe. I'm not mechuyev to be extra nice to him. And he mitzidok, he wavered his rights. He says, whatever you do is fine. Okay, whatever I do is fine. Yes, I don't have to correct him on the fine details and the nafkamina, the application, that there's difference here of 20. Ravina Zoban Dikla, Rabina bought a dekel, a palm tree, who vekuti, together with a kuti. Again, a kuti here is not exactly a kuti. It's again a low class goy, which is over the Zara, letzalcha. In order to cut it half, we're buying a palm tree which does not yield fruit anymore, or never yielded fruit. And why are we buying it? We're supposed to cut it half. So half would go to the Jew and half to the goy, and they're going to slice it to small pieces, for firewood. Let's say 10 pieces to the Jew, which is Rav Kahana, for Ravina, and 10 for Mekenzush. Amar Lelishame. So now Ravina told his servant, Kadam ve'aisi li'koroi. You should actually, I want you to cut half, but I want the bigger half. I want, the parts that are closer to the ground, because that's where it's thicker, right? The trunk gets wider and thicker towards the end. You know why? The kuti minyona yoda. All the kuti cares about is the number. As long as I have 10 pieces and he has 10 pieces, he's happy. He's not going to be so particular and meticulous about what? About the sizes. So even though I get the bigger size, as long as the goy doesn't care, according to some, or doesn't notice, some Rishonim say the goy doesn't care so much. I don't have to be extra nice and go, the ruler, and show how extra honest I am to the guy. No, this guy is not a piece of gold exactly, to say the least, and I can do whatever I want as long as it's within the norms of the trade, number for number. Had they decided sizes, if they would say, I get X centimeters and you get the other centimeters, that would be an out blatant lie. That would be a different story. Because they spoke about 10 pieces versus 10 pieces, and each piece is the same thickness, but some of them are just wider, not significant, that's okay to do to the Ovid of the Zora, to the one who's bound down to the Pesel. Rav Ashi. True, but that's a shaila. It's not so simple. Today we live in a society, obviously, where we have to show our, good faces, and I hope it helps. But Lamaisa, it doesn't look like the Morah were concerned about that. We have to understand why. But it sounds that, and of course, these Amoraim were extremely holy people. They didn't care about the extra little piece of wood. Maybe believes otherwise. Maybe believes that for the goy, with an Ovid of the Zara, to have more money, have a bigger piece is not a good thing. He's going to do that piece of wood. He's going to make a getchka out of it. He's going to burn the fire, and him and his girlfriend are going to go to a hotel. I don't know what. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily a good thing to support them. We are so entrenched into Western kind of thinking, but those people being over the Zara, there's no Indian to give them the extra money or even bordering on the extra. It's not a good thing for them to have more money. We're giving koyach to people who are not following even the minimal parts of Torah that they're supposed to. Very nice. Good, nice. Rav Ashi Avakazil Be'urcha. That's an interesting story. Speaking of Rishonim, how to explain the following story. Rav Ashi was walking on his way. Chaza Shivsha de Gufna. He saw some branches of the of the vine with nice grapes on them. The pardesa in the pardis, in the canim, in the vineyard, the taliba kitufi the invi. Listen to my words. The kitufi the invi, the clusters of anovim, they were hanging outside, on the outside part of the fence of the vineyard, which means that we're not exactly in the vineyard, they were like bordering on the outside already. Amar Shami, he told his servant, his Shamish, Zil, go to the vineyard, let's stop the carriage, whatever, go to the vineyard, Chazi, and look, idekutininu aiti. If they belong to a goy, bring them to me. If Israel ninu lo aitili. And if they belong to a Jew, don't bring them to me. Check if there's a mezuzah in the door. Yeah, if there's, I don't know, likuta ma'aran in the corner. I don't know what. Yeah. Check if it's a goy or a Jew. If it's from a goy, you can bring it. If from a Jew, you cannot bring it. Now, there are two ways to understand this statement. I'll leave it for later. Shoma'u kuti. Oh no, Mackenzie heard us. Shoma'u kuti dabioti v'pardesa. The guy was sitting in the pardis in the vineyard. He heard what Rav Ashi said, and you know what it did? Omar le the kuti shali. Oh, are you allowed to steal from a guy, you Jewish rabbi? Facebook, internet, everyone's going to know about it now. Omar le, so listen to what the rabbi answered Rav Ashi. Kuti shakil domi. A kuti would take money from me. Mister, I know intentions not to pay. You heard half a sentence. All I said was, if it's from a goy, give it to me. I know havamina not to pay. I want to buy from a goy and not from a Jew. Why? A goy would charge me money and I would fairly pay him the money. Israel loy shakil dami. Israel would not take money. Israel would see Rav Ashi, would say, Rabbi, take it for free. You know what it says in the Nach? You're not supposed to want to receive free gifts, free lunches. And therefore, because I knew that if it belongs to a Yid, he would refuse to take my money, that's why I said, if it's from a Yid, don't take. Because the Yid would say, take for free, and I don't want free gifts. Was it real, what he said? Or was it a very, or was it an elegant way to get out of Chilul Hashem and being all over the internet with the face of the rabbi who steals? Machloikes Rishonim. Toysa says, yes, that's what he meant. He really meant what he said, because it's Gzela. To take, nobody agrees that Mamish take a cluster of grapes from the guy's possession is obviously also. So that thing he said at the end was not an elegant way to squeeze himself out of the situation. It's really what he meant. The guy was down the Kaf Chayva. However, other Rishonim say no. Other Rishonim said no, it was only an excuse. So how can he steal? Really had to have a minute to take it for free. How? I'll tell you why. What did they tell at the beginning? Those grapes are not inside. Very good. Those grapes were from the inside, they're hanging on the outside. Grapes are hanging on the outside. Most goyim, unfortunately, many Jews would anyhow pick them without the person knowing, because they're hanging on the outside of the fence. And many people would obviously take the opportunity and exploit the situation. When the shomer is not looking, they'll take it. They don't even have to go in. And because that's called hefker, or close to hefker, such a thing you can take from a goy. If the goy may be makted, but his akpar is not real, and such a thing really he would have taken. However, in order not to look bad in the eyes of the goyim, he actually told him that version of the story at the end. That's another shot. Okay. Questions and comments? 41700. Now, you tell me how I write the description of this here on YouTube. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.